USA, the only superpower. Well, I would put it that USA is not the superpower, but the super pooper. It poops at the first available opportunity. It pooped in Korea, it pooped in Vietnam, and now it is pooped in Afghanistan. And wherever you give it an opportunity, it will poop. So let us look at United States pooping expertise, and we've got along with Vibhuti Jha, we also got Dr. Shiv Shastry, though he will join us a little bit later. And so to go in, you have to first please subscribe. It's a request, of course. And another request is to please think of contributing to us. The link is there in the description. Oh, here is Dr. Shiv Shastry. Welcome, Doc. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I don't know, my wired connection suddenly gave way, so I'm on Wi-Fi. I prefer wired, but there's nothing I can do. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can see you very well.
Namaste, Shivji.
Namaste. Namaste. Happy to meet you, sir. Happy to meet you.
Delighted to meet you, sir. Thank you.
And both of you are in blues. I'm the only one who's a little... of course, I also have a little...
And also the only one with too much hair.
Okay. So I just introduced the topic. I don't know whether you heard it. I think we are talking about the pooping habit of the super pooper.
I heard that. I heard that.
So, we start with the resident USA expert. Mr. Vibhuti Jha is in Long Island, New York, right now. And our Wednesday show is always with Shri Vibhuti Jha. And so, Vibhuti Ji, how are you liking this feeling of sitting on a poop?
Well, I'm wearing a blue shirt, but doesn't mean I'm suffering in the blues. But but the important part is recognizing the truth. That's important. US, as we all know, has been in a turmoil for a very long time, and this Afghan debacle, which the world has seen in instant viewing. It's not like Saigon or Korea or Bay of Pigs that people didn't know or read about it in the newspapers 10 days later. It is now and here. The familiar ending of any empire is depicted with its major loss in a war. You can look around all the histories of all the power. They went down because they lost a major war and the world saw it. This particular thing has been really decimating. And this is indeed a signpost for the end of an American empire. However, I will add a caveat to that unlike other empires, America has one thing very strong about it. The country is 3 times larger than India, has 1/4 the population, is a very resource-rich country. So economic might is existing. In US will survive all of it. What is important here to bear in mind is that how the woke culture has destroyed America in the last few years. And we can see that when you have a decline happening, the woke culture and all the cultures begin to play a major role. Even the US Army is now talking about critical race theory, introducing mediocrity in performance. And that's what is tragic about America right now, that the political correctness has taken all its edge. But one thing is important. I have always said, presidents come and go. Whether the institutions will survive or not is important. So this particular debacle can be corrected if you have, as you put it very correctly in your cartoon of Jaipur dialogue, the high and mighty, the strong Trump approach. And interestingly enough, Trump was on a TV show last night with Hannity on Fox News, and he was talking about conditional withdrawal because he understood it very quickly. And he said it in his statement. Why are we trying to solve their problem when they have been doing their internal battle for thousands of years? What are we doing there? But he talked about very confidently about the conditional withdrawal that he was trying to bring about. And his conditional withdrawal had 5 pillars to that, which he elaborated. And that those 5 pillars that he talked about was to first take out the American citizens, then the assets. That was the process that he elaborated on the show. And he also said that Afghan assets, American citizens, and then weapons and equipment. We have to take them out. This particular withdrawal has been so hasty and so corrupt, so panicky, that they have left everything back there. Even the citizens are not pulled back yet. And he made a very interesting statement yesterday in which he said the last item to come out was soldiers. In this particular instance, withdrawal, the soldiers were pulled out. And there was a sensational statement that he made. The 300,000 Afghan forces were the most well-paid employees of the Afghan government. So the moment the United States withdrew, they realized that they were not going to get paid anymore. So why die? And a bunch of people who surrendered to Taliban, they were butchered. So this was a complete disaster from Biden's point of view, is that this leadership, to use the American slang, sucks. And to use the American slang once more, they got their ass whipped, which they always say. So the American ass is whipped. The question is, how will America survive this? So I feel there is one more big threat to America. The amount of money that America has spent on this entire struggle will affect the economy, because you cannot afford to print notes all along. And this debacle will hurt the dollar's might. So how will US survive, whether Biden resigns or Kamala Harris comes back, or what kind of an arrangement happens? Kamala Harris, exactly the point, yeah. So you have a leadership crisis in America right now. Total collapse of leadership right now in America. Nobody is owning up the responsibility. हमारे यहाँ तो रेलवे मिनिस्टर एक रेलवे एक्सीडेंट में रिजाइन कर जाता है, owning responsibility.
Not if he's Lalu Prasad.
No, not if he's Lalu Prasad. But in this particular instance, what has angered America, and I tell you, this is a genuine anger that despite the intelligence, artificial intelligence, high-tech gadgetry, cyber warfare, drones, hellfire missiles, all the technology power that America had, it got its ass kicked. And that's something that Americans will not take it lightly. How the rebound will happen, only history will tell. But once Trump come back in 2024 or taking over of the Congress and Senate, you will begin to see the American pride restore itself. So I'm an optimist. This is indicating a decline of an empire, no doubt. But still, it has the ability and the wherewithal to rise back. And that would be good for America, and that would be good for the world as well. Maybe the priorities went crazy, which is true. America will have to take responsibility and hold people accountable. Punishment is required, accountability is required. But what will happen is the terminal decay has set in, and nobody is going to be blamed from 2001 onwards, whether it was CIA's WMD fiasco, deliberate or intentional, we will never know. So that is what is important. CIA, the government, the presidents, all of them somebody will have to hold the candle that yes, we screwed up. And that's when the change will begin to happen. If Trump comes back to power, or somebody like Trump comes back to power, you will see the reversal happen pretty quickly. You know, I'm often reminded of Steve Cohen, the Russia expert in America. He was a complete Democrat, didn't like Trump, but he made a very interesting statement in Los Angeles to a very liberal crowd, that this guy may or may not know what he's saying, but he's often right about what he's saying. And that's something which people have to recognize, and people have begun to realize that. Jo bhi tha, Joker tha, whatever he was, he didn't tell wrong. His 5-point withdrawal was very clear, that we should have destroyed the forts that we built there. And he said it openly on the TV. We did not retreat dignified. Retreat maybe dignity hoti hai na. That's what is important. And his approach was correct. that the Islamic countries, they have been fighting their own tribal warfare for donkey's years. Why are we going to fix their problem? We go to fix their problem, and then they say, no foreign army on our soil. So think about it from this point of view, as we have often talked about, Sanjay ji. Purva Paksh, call it Purva Paksh, or call it understanding the nature of the beast. You have to know before you can wage a war. And that's important, my opening statement.
Okay, let's go to Dr. Shiv Shastri. Of course, we would ask you about things military a little later. I
Yeah,
just talking about the
yes,
decline that Vibhuti ji
yes,
mentioned. Let me ask you a specific
exactly.
question. Let me
Yes,
ask you a specific question.
sorry, please. You were going to ask a specific question?
Yes. See, you are also dabbling into history a little bit. So, if you look at the decline of empires, every time an empire puts ideology before national interest or ideology before common sense, it begins to decline. Take the example of, I'll take two examples. And of course, this American uh, poop show is the third one. The two examples, let's take the example of Ashoka from the Indian history. This man put his ideology of Buddhism before the interests of the empire, before common sense. And his empire declined irretrievably. He lost a lot of lands within his own life. And after his death, within I think 10 or 15 years, Pataliputra was overrun by Kalinga. So the wheel came full circle. Let's talk about the decline of the one of the mightiest empire, the Roman Empire. And that decline began when they put Christianity over common sense. And the dark ages of Christianity that began, the ages of Christianity and dark ages of the fall of the Roman Empire started with their trusting Christianity over the uh, entire empire. And what is happening in the United States of late is that they have also privileged a certain ideology, call it woke ideology, or call it leftism, or call it cultural Marxism, or uh, postmodernism, or what have you. So they have privileged this ideology over everything else, and as a result, the decline has started. Do you agree with this position that I
Yeah,
put forward? Proposition
well,
that I put
yes,
forward?
yeah. The ideology part, I think I see there are multiple areas of decline in the United States. When I was a student in the 1970s, and I think this is the time when my peer group were all going to America. It was definitely the greatest country in the world. There was no doubt about it. The 70s to the 80s, it was an absolute top country. And there has been a gradual decline since then. Of course, I think probably the decline, the first hit may have been the oil prices, the Gulf oil crisis, which came up. But what's happened is that see, if you look at America, even now, I think America takes up about 60% of the world's resources, which is what makes it very, its own resources, makes its people very wealthy and things like that. But when you have other countries coming up, when you have a China coming up, and when you have an India coming up, we are all going to be competitors to America. And any little gap that America leaves is going to be grabbed by somebody else. And unfortunately, America is the only word for it is what a friend of mine said was, it's a country of narcissists. The country believes that it's the best in the world, whether it is or not. There are things, sometimes they'll say this is the biggest rock in the world. This is the biggest, this is the oldest tree. They'll say things like that. They genuinely, the pride they have in America, I sometimes feel jealous of Americans because I watch an American TV show. It's not pawn pure, it's pure pawn stars. And they value American items. They value things that are made in America, which is just the opposite of us Indians, who just we always run down anything that is Indian. But there's sometimes you can say there's too much pride in America, and they have been thinking that they do everything right. And when you speak of poop, you see America has treated a lot of countries like poop. They felt that they can do anything. And military might is one thing. Yes, they still have military might. They've got bases everywhere and things like that. But they've frittered themselves away. And it's sad that in the 70s, I saw America pulling out of Vietnam. And yes, I was young. I didn't know what to think then. And I thought things would get better. There was a little gap. And then America really started off with Panama, Kosovo, then Iraq, uh, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Syria. America has been sending forces everywhere, doing all sorts of things, overstretching itself, completely overstretching itself. And no country can carry on like that. And as you rightly said, America has constantly experimented with itself, with its own people, psychologically, doing things that, see, a lot of countries have an ancient history and ancient culture to fall back upon. The Americans have no ancient culture to fall back upon. Their culture is just, they feel that whatever they're doing is right. They experiment with anything, whether it's sexuality, whether it's money, or whatever it is. Things can only go so far and no further. And so we've seen a decline. They want more and more and more of everything, more richness. I've seen a decline in science, in research. It was the best place for research. And now the quality of scientific research has come down. Yes, it is still the top in the world. Who makes those fantastic aero engines, those fantastic designs? No doubt about it. But they've got so many universities. And slowly it's coming down. The wokeness is coming in and things like that. It's a sad thing. And as Vibhuti Jha ji said, Trump did point out one thing. He said, for a withdrawal, what should happen is withdraw the civilians first. Then, withdraw the civilians, withdraw the diplomats, withdraw the military last. And after the military, have an airstrike, massive series of airstrikes to destroy all the weapons that are left behind. And here they left all the weapons behind. The armed forces just withdrew. Yes, I'm sorry to say, my friends get angry with me. My friends, as typically my generation and my social class, everybody is in America. There's nobody who's not in America. And so, sometimes when I say that there's a decline, they get angry with me. There's no point getting angry. This is an inevitable thing. It is coming down. So what can I say? This is my, I certainly like to be willing to discuss individual aspects of the way the decline has panned out. But that is it. That's all I'll say for now.
Okay, let's go to Vibhuti Ji. Vibhuti Ji, and this decline that we are talking about is not just in the realm of statecraft, where they still can't decide whether they want to be friends with Russia in order to spook China, or they want to keep spooking Russia just for the heck of it, because it's old habit. Even if China is getting to their goat, it doesn't matter. They have to keep spooking Russia regardless. Or it is in the matter of military edge. China is catching up, no doubt about it. Though, of course, they still retain the edge, but for how long we don't know. I think the more precipitous decline is in the realm of what is called their social systems, their family systems. In a way, they have destroyed their life in order to get ahead in the world.
It's a very, very valid point because society exists. The people's responses determine your actions. So look at one very interesting dimension to the whole thing. Taliban, ISIS, Al Qaeda were hiding behind civil social setup in that country. And suddenly the wokeism came in, or the political correctness came in. when the world media began to attack US that you are killing civilians. But nobody had an answer to this particular important element, that your enemy is hiding behind those civilians. So how can you not have an element called collateral damage where your enemy is fighting an uneven battle with you? What can your sophisticated technology do? But we had the very precision bombers and all that kind of stuff, the intelligence and artificial intelligence, the spyware, drones, and everything else. But you could not potentially or likely have avoided the collateral damage of a civilian casualty in the war. That led to the military fighting the war with one hand tied behind their back. A simple IED can blow up a tank or kill people and maim soldiers. So when they are being hit in those unmilitary fashion, there was not a fair war, then you are definitely affected by that. And the entire thing is also very clear that the Panchmakars, as we call them, the left liberal establishment, began to take advantage of these elements systematically. Oh, we can't do this. We can't do this. But everything is fair in love and war. Why did we forget that famous phrase? So if that is the case, then how can we fight a war with a military with always concerned about that not a single civilian should die? Look at Pakistan. I think everybody would have seen that famous YouTube in with Director General of ISI talks about the fact that ISI defeated America using American resources and American people. That is the biggest lesson of history. I'm asking this question to my friends here, American friends. What was the CIA doing? Pakistan was hiding Osama bin Laden in its own territory, and we didn't know about that. What kind of an ally was that? So you are seeing a complete collapse of whatever is known as the civil intelligence, military intelligence, CIA intelligence, because they did not come to grips with the scenario. Who is Sharia? What is Sharia doctrine? You look at it this way. Behind Sharia, they all unite. They want you to come and fix their problem, then they blame you for being a foreign power. We have to defeat them. And that's the issue that Americans have has led to the American decline. The sooner they realize it, the better it would be. Right now in the Congress, people are trying to liberalize the immigration rule to bring Afghanis back here. Let's open up the doors for immigration and asylum seekers. Nobody is checking. In Trump regime or a tough president regime, it would be, let's vet the guys who are coming here. We know who our assets are, but we have to know who is Taliban pushing in. That is the issue which is happening big time in America. The decline is completely total. They have tried to destroy the elements that hold the system working. They are trying to destroy police force. They are trying to impact the morale of the military. That's what is happening in India as well. So that's what we have to draw the lesson, that what are the lessons we are drawing from all of it? This is critical for us. And if we are not drawing the lesson, not understanding the enemy the way he operates, then we will continually battling a social dilemma. And that social dilemmas don't win you war. And that's what is happening in America right now. There is a seething anger. Coronavirus was not our own. Somebody brought it. There is a fatigue on that account. Constant bursting of mask or no mask. We are spending huge amount of time in President and Fauci and others talking about to wear 1, 2, or 3 or booster doses. Think about it. So America is very tired. They know that the things that hurt them was not of their own creation in the direct manner. But at the moment, this is what is happening in America right now. There is tremendous anger. And I think this anger will boil out someplace. I'm 100% sure about that.
Okay, so that also highlights the fact you're also a very keen watcher of things military. So I think the key mistake that was done, and I think it is only because they put ideology ahead of common sense, and that is that they attacked the wrong country.
Yes.
And they never brought Pakistan to account. And whereas anybody with any iota of common sense could see that it is the Pakistan which is actually part of the problem and not part of the solution. Whereas Americans kept treating Pakistan as part of the solution. How daft can you be?
Pakistan played America very well. Pakistan has played America extremely well, and Americans have been suckered by Pakistanis right from the 1950s and right after the Soviet Union entered this thing. And it's terrible because America this time, after 2000, after 9/11, America was completely dependent on Pakistan for logistics. There was nothing they could do. There was absolutely nothing they could do. And every time the Taliban were in trouble in Afghanistan, they would just withdraw into Pakistan. So, it is so sad. And actually, if you look at it, in the last 20 years, America has not had too many casualties. America has lost 2,500 men. But that's a very, very low number of casualties. So there was not much fighting. That's because the Taliban just withdrew and, they were just sitting it out. It's bad strategy, bad policy. They should have taken out Pakistan. Unfortunately, America has taken on all the little countries that don't offer them any great threat. They I don't know. I think America rightly became sensitive to very high personnel losses in the body bags coming back from Vietnam. So they decided to have a very mechanized and sort of faraway warfare from the air and things like that. And that worked extremely well in the first Gulf War. In the Gulf Wars, they managed to knock everything off by air, and that was a huge coalition, and they had bases nearby. But in a place like Afghanistan, it was never going to work. And in the meantime, there was this rot that is going on inside America. And, I would like to mention, I call it rot. See, what's happened is, sorry, I may say it from a more sort of Indian ethos viewpoint. See, there's been this so much desire for making more and more money. So now you have, see, if you look at the medical system, what's happening to doctors? Now, insurance. Now they want everybody to get good health care. So they have insurance. Now, what the insurance does is insurance lays down some very, very strict, insurance makes sure that they get the money, but they lay down such strict guidelines that doctors' hands are tied. So what's happening is and although doctors are still fairly, happy and earning quite a lot, you find that there's a lot of people dropping out because there is no longer that ability to, be personal with the patient because you have to follow the rules. The rules are laid down. If you don't follow, you get sued. Then again, lawyers running the system, suing doctors. So that is one thing. Coronavirus. Now, very recently, there was, the thing is, the spike protein genes and vaccines against that were patented long before 2019. They were patented as early as 2017 by Pfizer and companies related to that. So this business of playing with coronavirus has gone on between China and America. And you look at the way Pfizer has behaved because they want to make maximum money out of it. In India, we've been lucky because we fought against these patents and said we'll manufacture drugs cheap. So India has some of the least expensive drugs in the world. That is how India is managing to supply itself and other countries. But American companies keep their drug prices very high. I mean, how much money do they want? And you look at, yes, their technology is absolutely fantastic. We come to the military. You look at the F-35. F-35, absolutely fantastic plane. Yes, yes, there's a lot of things to criticize. But this one plane can't do everything. And the Americans were very clever. They involved everybody, all their ally countries in the world. They got contributions from them. Now, all those allies are going to be operating F-35s. America finds that it's too expensive an aircraft to rely, so they're going back to their F-15s. They're looking for a replacement for the F-16, all their old fourth generation aircraft. So this is the country that had unlimited money. They throw money at everything, but even they are running out of money because of their policies. I don't know how far they tried to reach. So it's a sad thing to see it, but this is how I think civilizations go down. And you find China catching up, India will catch up. Well, as soon as Indians run out of their colonization and say, we are also a country, we are not slaves. Once we grow out of that, we'll also catch up. So, yes. That said, I personally and as a country, we still have a lot of goodwill for America. I only wish they would realize who their real friends are. What are they doing with Pakistan? What are they doing? What do they think? Do they really think that they can fool everybody and get away with it? At some time, they have to back down and think. This is what I feel.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Go on, Karen.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Vibhuti Ji,
Yep.
you are, of course, very much into the financial systems. Do you think that America is surviving only as long as the dollar is the anchor of the world's financial system?
The simple answer is yes. However, there is the important thing to bear in mind that this country has to make certain structural shifts in which they conduct their economy. They are a resource-rich country. They were energy sufficient, independent during Trump. What did Biden do? He canceled the Canadian pipeline and allowed the Russians to have the pipeline. So today there is an energy crisis in America. Trump fixed the border and Biden made it unconditional, everybody come home. So look at the dismantling of the system that is happening. But what is important here is, I'll tell you, that this is a very resource-rich country. It can handle 300 million more people living here, coming in some point in time. But in this particular war, now the war is fought in a remarkably different way. People know things instantly. The Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, they have all understood one part of the American challenge. Americans don't have patience. And these people have drawn America in a long drawn struggle. This country values quarterly results in the stock market. There is a conversation going on that you can't rely on a stock market only in a quarterly result. This is a structural shift that will be required by America to tide over its long-term crisis. Using the cricket analogy, you play differently when you play T20 or you play a 50 over or you play a test match. The United States will have to come to grips with that scenario. And the internal scenario on what Shivji was talking about, the medical part of it, is so true. I remember in 1991, a very, very prosperous Indian doctor from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, he said in a very interesting way that, yaar, humne to bahut paise kamaye hain. Ye thodi jati ho gayi hai hamara. I hope there is some change here. This is 1991 conversation. Even today, the same dilemma continues. When you ask the insurance company, what am I paying for? They don't have any answer. Shivji is absolutely right. He has lived here, he knows that. And I live here, I know that. You don't live here, yet you know that. So this is the public knowledge part of it. So when the system begins to eat yourself from within, then you have to make the shift. And there is an American CEO, once I was on a visit to India with an American CEO, he confessed to me that I'm such an impatient guy, but India has taught me the value of patience. So that is where the American mindset is losing. The concept of a quick one has to go. The long-drawn battle has to be played differently. And that structural shift, I think smart businessmen, leaders have, because they play the long game. Politicians live for one term. It's like one Rajasthan MP had told me, कि 5 साल तो लगते हैं पार्लियामेंट का सिस्टम समझने के लिए, तभी तो 5 साल और चाहिए फिर चेंज करने के लिए. So the politicians operates in a very different environment. And I think the US will survive. This particular US could survive if only they begin to take this seriously. If they think that like Saigon withdrawal or Bay of Pigs disaster or whatever we have done in Syria, Iraq, wrong WMD prescription, this will not fly anymore. And that's where it is important for people to realize that this far and no further. And if they do that, I think America has a chance to recover. And I remember my banking days in India, there was a joke in the Indian industrialists that if American bank has come to talk to you for business, that means you are doing well. So, so, so we used to explain to them why that philosophy runs in a particular way. And we are the first one, the Americans are the first one to pull the umbrella out. So there is a business way, the way you operate is essential, that America will have to change. And, over-reliance on, you talked about Pakistan, I've told this to Americans, that if you want to win the trust of India and Indians, you have to change your tune towards Pakistan. Because that's an absolute courtesan country. It will sleep with whichever bidder gives them the highest money. It is Saudi Arabia, China, Iran, whoever, and America so far. So if you do not understand the nature of the beast, you will definitely end up hurting yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
If I just, sorry.
Same question to you, Doc.
Yeah. No, see, a couple of things. Other things that I wanted to say about the financial things also. I just got to recall. See, the US has. Sorry, I forgot. I had a thought in my mind that went out of my mind. Yeah, there are a few things that on the one hand, if you don't like America, you can gloat, but if you have some sympathy for America, you feel sorry. Some of the things I've been reading now are really sad. One is it might be, I'm not sure, it's one of those cities in the west of America. I'm not sure if it's Los Angeles, where people are pooping in the streets. What is this? People are pooping in the streets. And then there's another city, maybe the same one, I'm not sure if it is that. They made a law. They said that a certain people can steal from shops as long as the amount they steal is less than I think $900.
Right.
So you have people going and taking things. And why? Why are they doing this? Why is the government of that state or the city allowing people to steal? They're saying that it's too expensive to bring these people to book. It's too expensive to try them, to arrest them and keep them in jail. You see, this is what is happening. Everything is about money, and it's this too expensive. We want more money. Too expensive. We want more money. It has gone too far, because when America wants scholars, when America wants scientists, they look at India and say, "Chalo, this fellow knows English. He studied. Come here." When they want drivers, they look at maybe Somalia. When they want construction workers, they make a hole in the wall and let Mexicans or somebody come in. So this is what is happening. And when they want cheap goods, this is what they did decades ago. They said, let the Chinese do it. So what's happened is that there was a group of people who are just making money by these means. You see, a lot of the Indians and a lot of these people don't get paid as much as especially contract workers who come with software companies. They don't get paid as much as the American. And what's happening is that now the Americans are not doing that. And I think Trump actually played with this sentiment. I personally think, I may be wrong, I personally think Americans need to take a cut in their salary, but start doing things on their own and have more expensive things. Start making the small things at home. Start making the small, what they've been importing from China. Give people jobs and let them do that in America. That is the only way to bring America up again. You can't have this system of just importing this fellow for that, importing that fellow for that, and saying that few people are going to be very rich from that. And as Vibhuti Jha ji said, it's about the quarterly results of the stock market. What are our stock owners earning? This is just my feeling about it.
Okay, that's an interesting take. Vibhuti ji, what's the way out?
As I always say, that I love the Einstein's quote that that any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes courage to move in the other direction. So my prescription is very simple, which I said then also, is that Afghanistan was, look at it this way, Afghanistan was nothing else but tribal warfare going on, tribal leaders. If America were smart, they would have given every tribal leader $1 billion, run your own little empire. There was no need for a holding company called Afghan government, which didn't mean a thing. The whole prescription was wrong. So the way out is very simple here, is to take into account cognizance of the fact that when you are dealing with Sharia, you have to understand the nature of the beast. Because there are 4 categories of people that operate in it. The debacle is because Pakistan brought you down. So the way out is very simple. Actually, in my opinion, way out for US is very simple, is to go back to the basics that made you who you are. China played the game very well. After the Soviet USSR collapsed, China figured it out that America will come to me now. And when the USSR collapsed, nobody missed Russia at all because Russia did not manufacture anything. China offered its cheap labor, the profit margins which Shivji was talking about, high profit margins, manufacture, make more money. And China became the manufacturing hub of the world. Now China is in every single home in America, whether it is US Open glass or a pin for 9/11. They were all made in China. So US has to go back to its manufacturing base, which is what Trump was trying to do, bring manufacturing back to America. You are right, Shivji, that learn to pay the higher money that people paid here. When I came here, it was you paid the American dollar for whatever product you bought until you had no. There was a very interesting part. The shirts and T-shirts or designs coming from China were not cheaper. The corporate profits were higher. You and I paid the same price for $29.99 or $59.99 or $99.99 for whatever shirt you bought. The corporate profits went up, and that's what China worked on the greed. There is another very interesting point that they talked about, the Chinese, we used to talk about, that democracy is a function of rule of law. And they operate on that basis for the rest of the world. But the laws are made by people, and people can be managed. And that's what China has done very cleverly. Either invested money in institutions to shape their own perception, their own reality, and their own philosophy. People are talking about, whenever somebody asked me, when I was here marketing India, people will say, you guys are like this, but Chinese are like that. I have told this to Indians as well. So why don't you embrace Chinese system? The Communist Party in India will not accept Chinese political punishment and other mechanisms. They want Indian democracy to use or abuse to serve their own purpose. And that's what is important for the US to recognize, that you have to take into account the truth. You can't ignore it anymore. The world knows the truth. Everybody is an entertainer. Everybody is an editor. Everybody is an opinion maker. Through the use of technology, we are communicating instantly. This conversation would not have happened during Saigon crisis or Bay of Pigs fiasco. It couldn't have happened 10 years ago, but it's happening today. So if American opinion makers take a good poll, not an opinionated poll, but a good poll, I think they will get the pulse of the people very quickly. They are not listening to the right kind of people.
Okay.
I think.
Doc,
Sorry, yeah.
from the
Sorry.
poop to power, from the poop back to power. How?
Actually, I see one problem. See, America is a very rich, and it's rich not only in mineral and other resources, rich in human resources as well. They're very, very skilled people. The skills that, you have to feel jealous of the kind of skills that you can acquire in America if you're living in India. And, there are some fantastic things. I watch a TV program about how people forge knives. It's called Forged in Fire. They forge knives out of metal. And they do it, it's a kind of live show on TV. And there are so many smiths who are doing it. And I would like to go and learn that and forge a sword or a knife. They do all these great things. So the problem is America is such a vast, such a rich country, and a country that is so proud of itself, they will not take criticism. You can sit outside and see faults in America, but a lot of people, my own friends and relatives who are sitting in America, say there's nothing wrong. It happens everywhere. Unfortunately, Pakistan and America speak in the same way. We are the best. It's just a perception problem. It's sad like that. For America, is totally different. Not for 1 minute comparing Pakistan with America. So they don't see the reality. They don't see what other people are seeing. And see, China is now saying, they're mocking whether Chinese do something or not. We don't know. They're telling the Taiwanese, when we attack, the Americans will not be able to come in. And I wonder really, does America now have the, yeah, if I may just digress for a second, this Western word, ally, it actually means something. When you have an ally, they fight for each other. The European allies in America, the allies, they actually send their military. In India, we tend to use the term ally very loosely. So technically, when the US is an ally of Taiwan or Japan, it's a very serious thing. That means the US will attack. Now, if the US leadership is weak, or if it starts going down, really they will not be able to keep up with their commitments. And I worry sometimes, because US is still a positive force in the world. And sometimes the US population has to see reality and say that, look what people are telling you. Look what well-meaning people who have empathy and, actually like America are saying, look at yourself. They need to do that. They need to recognize that there is a decline and it can be arrested in certain ways, perhaps by cutting down the amount that everybody is earning, which is not going to happen easily.
Okay, on that point, let's move to the question answer session. And we have a few questions. Before that, let me request all my viewers to please like this video, share it around, also to subscribe to the channel, to press the bell icon, and also to please contribute a little bit.
आप म्यूट हो गए संजय जी.
And
You are again mute.
yeah, and for yes, so about the contribution, we have the link in the description. And for international contributors, you can do it through PayPal as well. The link is very much there. Okay, questions and answers.